community activist who never minces any words. And in this special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I speak exclusively with Christopher Poppa Smurf Cason one-on-one. You know, there's so much going on in Charleston beyond. And I'm wondering, you come into peace to say what?
I mean, a lot of the issues we face here in Charleston are deeply rooted. It's not a cordial thing these days to talk about some of that history. And I think because of that, a lot of the anger and frustration is building up. And one of the things I would like to do is get it out in the open so that we can discuss it and possibly find some healing in it. I mean, we can't change history, but we don't want to repeat it. So a lot of what I do and try to do is get people to understand that anger has consequences. And going up against a system like this that happens to be very, very biased against one group of people, my people, you have to do it intellectually. And sometimes when you do that, the people who you actually represent or trying to help better their position feel that when you want to do it intellectually, instead of going trying to take it, you're selling out. They have names like house nigga, bootlicker, and stuff like that. And we're at a point now where I have even come to see that some of those names and some of those allegations that have been brought towards the African American community in reference to their leadership is true. And it disappoints me. I'm tired of people nominating themselves to be the spokesman for our community for benefits that solely benefit them. Employment, favors, just a wide array of stuff. And I think that when people like myself stand up and talk, it kind of signifies the fact that there is a strong voice in the community that can't be bought. So that's why a lot of times you see me present myself in the manner in which I do. Right. I'm not going to put on a bow tie, because just because you wear a bow tie don't make you a gentleman. I'm not going to speak with 5 syllable words, because just because your vocabulary is vast don't mean you're intelligent. I think that a lot of the representation that has come forth has agendas. Many of those agendas are hidden. So I try to bring that to the light, at the same time helping the people who necessarily need the help get it. And we have been faced with that. And I want everyone to know, even the ones that I come and try to somewhat educate to their passiveness, that I come in peace.
And you also said this just recently, speaking of tired and whatnot. You said this on Facebook a week ago. Yesterday, 2 powerful forces in 2 different geographical locations stood up and said, enough is enough.
Exactly.
It's not over. Many times in the past we made noise, but no one ever listened. Well, they are listening now. You're referring to 2 events that happened last week Monday. As you know, 3 Charleston County School Board members walked out of the Charleston County School Board meeting over the closure of Lincoln Middle. You had Reverend Chris Collins, you had Eric Mack, and of course Michael Miller.
Right.
And then you're talking about the other event, I believe, in North Charleston somewhere. And I'm wondering, as we sit here right now, what are people listening to right now?
Well, first I'm going to say this is a disclaimer I have to give you. Please. The other event that happened in North Charleston, I'm not in a position to talk about right now. We've agreed that we was going to stay away from the media. And believe me, once I am released to talk, you will be the first one to get the interview. Believe that. As for the City of Charleston school board members, them walking out was something that was, as I said, was coming about. It was coming about. It was going to happen. It's just at what point, and then what will we benefit from it? Because just because you walk out don't mean nothing. Those members that was on the school board sat on that school board for a long time when a lot of the situations that got us in this mess was going on, and they didn't stand up. Now, because they see that there's a great push behind some other leaders, one of my favorite individuals, he's running for U.S. Senate, Pastor Dixon. You know, when Thomas Dixon comes, he can articulate it in a way where he can make you understand and clarify how important it is for us to unify. And that's been one of the things that has ducked the African American community for so long, unification. When these things was brought to light and given to these individuals that sat on the school board, they did, come to think of it, you're all right. And then you brought people like Nelson Rivers,
Right.
Doc Scott,
Right.
prominent people from the community saying, see, we was trying to tell you this all along,
Right.
that this was what was going on. And the biggest thing, it's not a thing, as I said before, about simple, plain recognition for them, their hidden agendas. This is about our children, universally. We have to be cautious of that. Malcolm had a famous saying that he said, anytime you send your children to be educated by the enemy, you're a fool. And I agree with that. But we know that this system, in order to live in America, there's certain things we must know. You must know how to read. You must know how to write.
Right.
And you need mathematics. Now, science and all those other things, I'm not going to say don't get it, because you can elevate yourself with it, but just those basic 3 principles is important. But when you have a group of people that's trying to deprive one group of people, it kind of throws things off balance, because now we start talking about money. How much money you want to push into the African American community where you put these teachers that's willing and qualified to teach, put these teachers that care and have a certain amount of admiration for all we've been through, put these teachers in there that's qualified to sit in the classroom with people, follow me now, that has been discussed for so long, especially with the Ritalin and the ADH, all them funny names they give, that know that the African American kids don't have learning disorders. We have learning differences. See, this is a part of the formula that needs to be implemented. So when we was going to these people, that were the 3 African Americans that you spoke about on the school board, they didn't really want to listen. They felt as though some of these children needed to be medicated. And I'm not saying all of them don't, but a lot of times you pool everybody into one bag. You don't go at it individually. And we was trying to get them to understand how important it was to look at these kids individually. As I said, Pastor Dixon and several others, Dr. John Hales, Millicent Brown, and I can go on with the list of people.
Lucille Whipper.
Right, Lucille Whipper, that went on to these people and simplified it. See, they didn't use, as I said, the 5-syllable words, and because they had certain letters behind their names and their accolades to get these points across, they went with the simplicity. If these kids are not educated, here's the result of them not being educated. But now we found out that y'all privatize prison. So it's on the stock market to make money. So maybe you might not want our kids to be educated because you want to fill the jail system with these children. Because it's the only way you're going to make money. You can't have empty beds in prison and get $20,000 for an empty bed. You need someone in that bed. And that's why we made that move. Now, I'll touch on a little bit about what happened in North Charleston. What happened in North Charleston was important. What happened in North Charleston, you're going to hear about. And as I said, you will get the interview. But you have to understand it's not just in North Charleston. It's in Mount Pleasant. It's on James Island. It's in Somerville. It's all over the world, as we've seen with Ferguson and other places. Unification. That's simple. And as I said, I can't go into depth on it because we all agree we wouldn't. But unification, unifying our forces, putting aside our differences. You're a Muslim and I'm a Jew, or I'm a Methodist, or whatever. I'm going to put that aside because there's a bigger picture. And that's what we've done.
Speaking of which, let's talk about May 16th.
Okay.
You also said this too. I spoke tonight at Sanders Fly downtown, and I'm at a loss for words. Some of the wonderful people who I've come to respect was there, but I have to ask my people, who seem to always be so busy, can our school board that is so clearly divided by race bring unity to a community even more divided by race? Hell to the no. So I'm wondering, how will the school board unify the community?
It can't. It can't. I'm glad. You're a wonderful guy, man. And I have to compliment you on that because, I'm honored right now and stoked that you're reading this. And that's the purpose I write like that. People are telling me to write books. I don't think so. Okay. I write one every morning. I put a status on. But you're right. They can't. They can't unify the school board. And I'm going to tell you why. There's no way our children will ever proceed in the corporate world if parents don't get involved. See, the only people that's going to ever unify our community is our people. Turning our lifestyle, turning our common goals over to another group of people to fix will never work. Now, I'm not one to disagree with spirituality, but I think, and it says this in the Bible, faith without works is dead. So I think if you're sitting here waiting on Jesus and not trying to do something yourself to better your position, you might be waiting a long time. You might not see it in your lifetime. So you spend so much time on your knees praying when you should get up and go to these PTA meetings. Go to these PTA meetings. Get to know your teacher. Well, anytime your child do something wrong, and this is criteria now, they have to call you. If there's an issue with a grade drop, then a small percentage, the teacher should call you. You have to involve yourself. You can't wait on the school board to fix this problem. You have to put yourself in a position so that the school board understands that you care. See, right now, because we don't attend PTA meetings, we don't go out and vote, we do a lot of things that's contrary to what other ethnic groups do, they've kind of given up on us. There's a famous saying my mother used to say. She said, one of the greatest tricks the devil ever pulled on man was making him think he didn't exist. See, you can hear the school board say, we care about your kids all they want, but they really don't. And you can see that by the closing of the schools, by the funding that they take out of the schools, by the teachers who come here, teachers now, to actually pay off their student loans. Because they know this is a failing school system, and they're not going to be challenged. All they have to do is play the part, and they'll be able to pay their school loans off. And that's why so many people are coming here. Then we know, and I know you know about the Mr. program. That's a very important program.
Call it Mr.
Yeah, very important program. But with all the incentives that program have, why don't we have a lot of African American teachers? Because it goes deep, goes way deeper than that. When we integrated Brown versus Board of Education, wonderful thing. It was. But we missed a part of that. When we got to go to school with these other group of peoples, they said, okay, come in. But they never let our teachers come. See, the African American teachers wasn't allowed to teach in these schools, these integrated schools. So there was a big variable missing. And that variable had to do with, like, there's a test, an aptitude test that they take. They say, well, what did you have for breakfast? And some people say eggs, toast, and orange juice. And then you ask an African American kid, what did you have for breakfast? Doritos, you know? And you see, and that's the thing. We know this. But someone has to listen to us, be willing to listen to us, to understand that these ain't disorders. These are differences.
Let me take you to June 4th.
Come on.
Ariel Elaine Morgan-Dale.
Right.
You said this also, with all respect, I got something to say. June 4th, you're going to hear exactly the truth about the live snitching. Can you share with me where you are emotionally a year later?
Okay. In the African American community, which I was a part of this lifestyle one time, we had a code that if two people agreed to commit a crime together, it was like signing a contract. Me and you agreed to rob the bank. We agreed. We agreed that once we get away with it, you're getting half and I get half. That's agreement, mutual agreement. And we said that if by chance someone get caught, it shouldn't be fair that I would have to suffer because of you getting caught. And if you ever came to a conclusion that you felt that I needed to suffer because you got caught or served me up to get yourself out of it, I would label you, a label that would discredit you in our community, and that was the word snitch. But that word only was for criminals, which I'm going to be speaking about June 4th.
Right.
That was only about criminals. No one else, not law-abiding citizens. If you see me shoot someone right now, me and you didn't have an agreement. We didn't have a contract. I didn't say, watch me shoot this person, don't tell. We didn't agree. So if you see me kill someone, murder them in cold blood, or even shoot at someone else and end up killing a young girl, a young child, a mother, or anyone, you are obligated to make your community a safe place. So if you inform people, which is the authorities, even you can take it to your pastor, to church, and some other outlets you have, you would be making your community a safe place. Because if you don't inform somebody, you're going to let a killer go free that could possibly, most likely, kill again. And this time, that murder, or those murderers, might end up at your door. So I'm encouraging people to understand that the word snitching only refers to one group of people, criminals. Simple. And I do agree. I do agree that if me and you go out and set out to do a crime and you get caught and I don't, it's wrong for you to tell on me. It's wrong in the criminal world. But now as civilians, if I see you take a TV out of someone's house that I know worked for that, or whatever reasons it was that came, it could have been inherited, someone could have gave it to them, You didn't do anything to deserve that. And if I let you get away with it, you can't go back to that same house and steal the TV because no more is there. You're going to look for a new house, and that house might be mine. Now I'm going to show you the simplicity in that. All of us, I'm not going to talk about all of us, talk about myself. If I get up in the morning at 3 o'clock and go out to get me something to drink out the kitchen, and I cut the light on, for some strange reason, something brown always runs across the floor. A roach. You know, and you know, a lot of people refer to this, but I don't want to seem like I'm talking down anybody else, so I'm going to talk about my house. Roach went across the floor. When I see that roach, I do everything in my powers to kill him. I move furniture, I spray, I do everything, because I don't want that roach there. I know what that roach is capable of doing. It carries bacteria, could get on my food, my children eat it and get sick. So I don't want this roach there. Plus, I didn't invite him there. So he's trespassing in a sense, and I know the consequences of him being there. So I'm going to do everything in my power to get rid of this roach. That's the way we need to feel about criminals in our community. We don't want them there to spread their germs on our children that are in the playground or even in our front yard playing catch or on a swing. And you have a drug dealer that went bad and you start shooting and killing them. I don't want that possibility to happen. So by lessening it, all our mothers do after we ate, the first thing they say is clean up after yourself. So you clean up. You clean the counters off. You sweep the floor. You do everything to make sure the roaches don't have no reason to be there. And that's what we need to do. And we need not let the word snitch prevent us from doing it. Because it was never meant for civilians. It was the underworld. Now, I simplified it with the roach. Now let's go into facts. Look at all the people who actually brought that word to here. It was gangs from other countries. Sicily, Ireland, these major gangs came here with that code. Don't tell. You know, if anything happened, we hold it to ourselves. But look at how many of them had done it. Look at the mob. The mob did it. You have major players in the mob that was high up in the organization that became snitches by telling on other criminals, not civilians. And in the African American community, there was a code, especially in Harlem, that said if you killed an innocent child, you had to turn yourself in. We're not going to allow that to happen. It's going on in California now with the Crips and the Bloods. They have truces. Still have activity going on, but they have a certain zone for that. They don't no longer do drive-bys where they ride by and just shoot and end up killing a bunch of innocent people. Well, they're trying not to. This weekend we proved that to be wrong with the major killings in Chicago. But we're trying to stop this and stop that word from manipulating people into believing if you see something wrong, you should be quiet.
Let's go back to North Charleston because, as you know, former North Charleston police officer Michael Slager was indicted on federal charges related to the Walter Scott case. I believe Chris Stewart, the family lawyer for the Walter Scott family, basically said this is history. I'm wondering, when you heard that news, what was going through your mind?
I was very disappointed because we have reached out many times to cities like Atlanta, New York, even as close as North Carolina, where African Americans have prominent positions. You find a lot of prominent lawyers in these places, Atlanta, and stuff like that. And we've been telling them all along, man, we got a problem in Charleston. We need your help. A lot of them turned us down. But when this happened, along with the videotape, proving that this was going to be bigger than the norm, that there was proof, because you got to remember, the police chief got on TV hours before the tape came out and said his officer was right. He shouldn't have run, and all these things he said, where he was supporting him until that tape came out. He even got on TV and tried to cry. He put a little fake cry that it hurt him. We've been telling these lawyers this for the longest, and other people, other officials, senators and activists, that South Carolina, Charleston for one, has a big problem. Help us. They didn't want to come. But when the Walter Scott thing happened, and I watched it unfold because I was very close to that, me, Pastor Dixon, and Muad'Dib, we received information that night about the videotape. The brother went and looked at it, viewed it. When he came back, he couldn't even describe to me and Pastor Dixon what he saw. All he did was shook his head. We wanted the mayor to continue telling his lies, but unfortunately the Scott family wanted to bring it to light, and we respected them wholeheartedly. So we brought the tape out.
Okay.
But when we seen the way it attracted so many of these people who we previously spoke to about helping us avoid this, possibly stopping Walter Scott from ever getting killed if they had come when we called, we was amazed that what really attracted you here? What really brought you to want to represent on this case? When we asked you, years before this happened, Brother Wilder, we spoke about that, and Jabba on Bayside, we spoke to many people, and no one came to our assistance. But when that tape showed, ching ching, you had all these different attorneys and all these spokesmen coming out because they seen money. The motive to all that they did reflected on money. It didn't care about Keith Summit because he still ended up being the mayor. How could you put a man back in a position that has something that detrimental to our community in a position to let it happen again? So Walter Scott will be history, but for not the reasons they think. When that mother gets on TV and you hear her speak, she's not speaking for just her son. A lot of people don't notice this. When the brother gets up there and speaks, he's not just speaking for his brother. He's speaking universally.
Okay.
He knows there's nothing he can do to bring his brother back. The mother knows there's nothing she can do to bring her son back. But she and him will do everything and have done everything in their powers to make sure this never happens again. So in the integrity of them two, much respect. But in reference to the lawyers and the attorneys that got involved, I'm not slandering them. I'm not saying this is it. I'm simply stating an opinion that what motivated you to finally come here and take on what we've been telling you all along was going on in Charleston, and you never wanted to listen.
Let's turn to the weather.
Okay.
It's hot outside.
Yes, it is. Lord, it is.
I'm sweating here, but I have to be professional.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
But as you know, Wendell Gaillard, Representative Wendell Gaillard, along with a couple other people, have spearheaded Project Cool Breeze for
right.
many years.
I'm a part of that.
That's right. Mm-hmm. In fact, you said the following quote: "Please support Wendell Gaillard on this wonderful program. Many of our elderly benefited over the years from Wendell's efforts. Please support. Peace." When you think of Project Cool Breeze, what sticks out in your mind?
The first thing I think about is a saying that comes out the Bible. And as I said, I'm not the most spiritual man in the world, but I grew up in that home. My mother always had a quote, and I'm talking about 78, 79, I was hearing this. We hear influence, it's real fluent now, but I was hearing it back then. It's called, "Am I my brother's keeper?" So when I think about a person who's concerned about the well-being of a group of people that have been forgotten, I feel overwhelmed. I feel like if I can be a part of that, I'm actually my brother's keeper. When I first got involved with Wendell, a wonderful individual, I was so surprised at the amount of air conditioners he was giving away and fans. Because I was thinking this was a little shabby thing. I knew a lot of people. A lot of people support what I do. So I said, well, let me get on board because now I can influence other people seeing me involved to make donations to his cause. But when I got there and seen how many of these people, there's pictures on my page of us actually doing it, that came in there walking with crutches, that have to make decisions on whether they're going to pay for their medicine or pay for something to eat. It touched my heart. And it made me feel like, wow, we actually have a shining light. We actually have someone who cares about our elderly, the people who paved roads for us. So when I got involved with Project Cool Breeze, I went there to be a servant. I didn't go in there, which I originally did. I go in there because I figured my influence would help facilitate his cause. But when I got there and realized it, I humbled myself and I had to become a servant. What can I do to help you, Wendell? Well, how can I help you? And Wendell put me in a position, knowing who I was, to actually stand in front and narrate this to the people who really have given up hope. People don't feel we care about each other. You know, one time there was a barter system in the African American community. And the barter system was, if you grew tomatoes, I grew plums. At the harvest, I gave you a half a basket of plums, you gave me a half a basket of potatoes. And we did that throughout the community. We no longer do that. So when you have someone knowing we're so close to the equator and how the temperature can rise, that's just the temperature, I'm not talking about the humidity. The temperature can rise, and a lot of these old homes that don't have the insulation to keep the cool air in and keep the hot air out, it is a blessing to say finally, because some of these people never had air conditioning before. They grew up on fans.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Finally, they have an air conditioner. So you're making their last few days on earth pleasurable. And then when they sit around their grandchildren, when they sit with friends and neighbors, they start to talk because they feel good about it. You know, they start to tell you about some of the sacrifices they made. And you would think it would require $1 million or hitting the lottery. For them, it's not about that no more. It's about telling the story, narrating the story on how, back to that word I said, we once was unified.
You know, I want to return back to politics.
I'm not scared of you. You all right with me?
I really appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
You know, the talk around town right now is Robert Ford versus Senator Marlon Cason.
Right, right.
When you think of that race, where are your emotions right now?
Okay. I met Robert Ford many years ago. I was involved in illegal activities, but I had a sense of home. I used to take, they're not really my nieces, Leandra Dingle and Jessica Dingle. Their mother, Dolores Dingle, really wanted to save me. To this day, she calls me, she says she's my mother, and I believe that. She really treated me good. She stuck with me when I went to prison, knowing that my parents couldn't come, because I had elderly parents. She came to visit me, she sent me money and everything. But she trusted me with her children. So I would always take them places. On Friday, the most lucrative day for my business was on Friday. Everybody got paid, people want to get high. I would give up that day to take the kids places. And I met Robert Ford at the mall. He used to walk the mall. And I didn't know who he was. We started talking. And he couldn't believe me telling him, because I don't know who he is, how well and successful I was in the drug trade. But he always had a word he would give me. Think about if that was your mother on the substance. And I'd be like, man, shut up, old man. But we never had a disagreement. Okay. So I learned to respect him. But if you go back and look at history, of all the greats, they was young. Malcolm, Everett, just name them all. Martin. They was all young men in their late 30s, early 40s. Well, I'm going to stay in the 30s. Early 30s, late 20s. And they was able to present ideology that best suited the community from the community standpoint, not from relics, books that was read and things that went on then. You could buy a loaf of bread with a nickel. You could have bought a six-pack of soda for 20 cents. Six-pack of soda for 20 cents. These was the things that went on then. So here comes Marlon Cason. Yeah. Marlon Cason challenges the people on a level in which he says that was good then, and it worked then. But we're living now in an era where, do you remember the old keys that fit in the locks? Right. They were skeleton keys. Right. Marlon presented it to him saying, yesterday's keys won't open today's locks. Wow. And with that philosophy, he was able to galvanize a bunch of people who was most likely not willing to get out and vote. We seen the election when Obama first ran. Right. There was just a big outpour for people to vote. African Americans, along with Caucasians and other ethnic groups voted. But the second time he ran, you noticed the numbers went down drastically. A lot of people was disappointed because they said he didn't do enough for the African American community. He wanted our vote, we gave it to him. So when you went around, which I know you probably did, and questioned people about why did you vote for Obama, many of them said just because he was black. Marlon has a different stance. People don't vote for Marlon just because he's black. People vote for Marlon because he's getting things done. We had big issues with the Department of Social Service when he first came on. Right. They was housing, which I knew this, mentally ill patients in general population. There's, you see what goes on TV about prisoners being raped in prison and stuff like that. That's not true. That's fabricated. Most of the people who involved in those kind of acts, voluntary. They don't mind. When you house a person who's mentally disturbed and doesn't know any better, and you offer him coffee, stuff that he needs, cigarettes, he accumulates tabs. And in prison, because there's no one to watch over these people, those tabs have to be paid off. And it got to the point to where some of these people was actually being taken advantage of, and the people who was there to protect them knew it. When Marlon found out about these things, he stepped in. He challenged it. When Marlon found out about the Gun Act and how these guns was being bought and sold from flea markets and out of the back of people's cars, and then you find out that these were the same guns used in drive-bys and murders here in Charleston, he stepped up. So yeah, Robert did good. I have a lot of respect for him because I knew him personally. But I'm looking at this as 2016. Marlon is a young, very outspoken, concerned citizen. I talk to him often. One of the things he told me is, I'm just trying to make a better future for my child. When I heard that, I said, man, you must be in my head, because that's all I want to do. I want to make sure my children, because I have young kids, right. I have some older ones as well, but I have two young, Christina and Krista, and I don't want them to have to go through that, worrying about playing in the playground and the gun that was bought out the back of a car because no one did a background check into the hands of another roof killed my children. So I openly support Marlon Kempson. I have a lot of respect for Robert Ford, but I think he was good in his era. Now we need a breath of fresh air. We need more Marlon Kempsons. We need more Wendell Gaillards. One of the ones who is of age that I have a lot of respect for, because he's actually teaching me a lot of stuff, and that's David Mack. Yes. He's a representative as well. These are the kind of people who I respect. I have yet to see Robert tell me or direct me or point me in the direction where I could be more effective in my community by just as something as shaking hands with some people he know. Marlon has done that. The other day, it's ironic that you brought that up, he had a fundraiser, and the fundraiser required a certain amount of money to be a part of it. I don't have it. So I wrote about it. I went on the page and I wrote, hey, I'm Marlon's friend, he knows me, I don't have this money. But I support him. And somehow the comment was taken off the page, which it didn't, and I found out later that it wasn't intentionally done, it was by mistake, but it was taken down. And when I wrote about it prematurely, I didn't know what had happened. I thought they purposely took it down. And Marlon read it, and Marlon didn't like it. Marlon came, I guess you want to say, to my aid, said, hey, this is Poppa Smurf. He is my guest. He's not going to wear the bow tie. He's not going to wear the slacks and the dress similar to you. He's going to probably come in here dressed like I am now. But this is my friend. That is a down-to-earth person. That's someone who I have to get behind and support. So, as I said, no disrespect to Robert, much respect to him, but I have to support Marlon Kempson.
You talk about guns. Let's talk about Lovely Manual.
Okay.
It's, 2 weeks now before the,
right.
I don't want to call it the anniversary.
Right, I don't know why they're using that language. Yeah.
But I guess the remembrance of the manual.
Much better.
I'm still numb.
Right.
I can't even go in that church sometimes. It's the energy's not there.
Right.
Talk to me about Charleston 1 year later and who we are.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if you know, I was the first one to speak that night.
Right.
CNN. Right. I was the first one that they broadcast live all over the world, and I made the comment that I knew that it was racially done. Not many people would have accepted that comment, but one of the news anchors here in Charleston, who is very down to earth, if I would say, that has a lot of respect from his radio station, from his TV station, to put on a comment similar to what I made, is Raphael James. Right. I think if he not had filmed me, that would have never got out the way it did. I think the trust they had in him to report worthy news was why I got to say what I said. We came through a time when the history of Charleston was starting to mature. We found out, which I didn't know, really what the Mother Emanuel Church was about. We found out that under the same circumstances in which the Citadel was built. So we start to hear a lot of stories about sanctuaries, similar to Mother Emanuel, Morris Brown, and these different churches. And we found out they was never accepted here in Charleston. So when we heard that someone went in there and killed 9 people, well 8 at the time, and later on one died at the hospital, it really turned Charleston to say, and I always think about this, and I've said this at several interviews, I think back to the time Martin was in jail, and Martin wrote the famous letter,
Birmingham.
right, to all the clergy asking for help. And a lot of them turned their back on him, telling Martin that he was creating disturbance and it wasn't the right time to do it. And look who came to his aid. Young kids. Young kids went out there and picked up the sign that a lot of the older ones put down. The college students, the young kids, picked up those signs and stayed out there under the harsh treatment that African Americans was getting at that time. And they stood strong on it. And what happened was a TV news camera rolled. And finally America got to see how evil it was by doing what it was doing, sicking dogs on African Americans, spraying water holes on African Americans. And I always think about that with the Manual 9, because it actually showed how evil this America still is. See, a lot of people don't want to talk about it. A lot of people, when you get around certain people, you start talking about privilege and racism, institutional racism, and stuff like that, they start squirming in their chair, and they call you the angry black man because you brought it up. These are the kind of things that need to be brought to the light. You know, that's why I agreed to do this interview with you, because I know you bring the truth. Once these things is brought to light, people will sit down and scratch their head, as they did when they finally seen, watching the hoses being sprayed on the children and the dogs being let loose on those kids down in Alabama. Are we really like that? Are we really this way? And I try to tell people there's a difference in racism and prejudice. See, a lot of people don't say they're not racist, and you probably have a lot around here that aren't. They don't hate me because of the color of my skin, but they're very prejudiced against me. They don't like that I can stay in the sun longer than them without getting cancer. Just a different way of thinking.
Okay.
African American women can bear children at a much bigger rate than them without complications. You find a lot of other ethnic groups that have a lot of complications during pregnancy because their genes wasn't built as strong as ours. Now, I'm not a scientist in natives, I just know there's some facts in that. And they become prejudiced against us. And when you think about what person, and he did narrate his story when he left out there, he told him, I'm trying to create a race war. Where did he get that from? Something had to have been shown to him, or he was exposed to something to make him feel that what he was doing was in the best interest of the European race. So he did what he did. Now he found out that it wasn't, but he can't reverse it. So we have to spin off that. We have to spin off of what he did to show America, like Martin did when he called the young college students out, how evil they still are. But I do have a problem, and I'm going to say this. I'm not comfortable with people using this killing to benefit them. You know, everyone always talks about the Manual 9. We're doing this for the Manual 9. We're doing that with that. It's just too much. It's too much going on now that takes away from the substance of 9 people being murdered because one man, which they're saying, which we believe there's more than one person in this, let happen. It shouldn't have happened. So because it's happened, why should you benefit from it? Why should you seek recognition from it? If you remember, I only gave one interview that night. I have a phone, internet, especially on Facebook, because that's the only way they know how to get in touch. Full of people requesting to do interviews with me. You even see at certain times when me and Pastor Dixon was together in the interview, and I stepped away. At the CNN one, I was in the background. The camera clearly showed me when we was here on Calhoun Street.
I saw the one with him and Fox News too.
Right, and I stepped away because I don't want to profit. I don't want to shine. I don't want to hear someone refer to me as a bootlicker or a house nigger and think that maybe that's what I am, because I'm using the death of 9 people to make myself feel like I'm more important. So that's something that's going to set with me, because they're calling me now. They're calling me now, want to do a year later interview about that. And I told you that. Me and you talk, well, I don't want to do no interview. But I got to know you, and I know what this was going to be about. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll come. You know, and Pastor called me, and Pastor talked to me about it. So, but it's coming. We don't have no choice but to face it. But I hope that what's taken from it is the sense that we still need healing. That America has a very dark past that's coming back to light, and it's being done intellectually. We've had issues where, hold, stop, put your gun down, don't move, don't resist. Okay? Then you have one, hold. The first one was a Caucasian perpetrator. The second one, hold, was African American. These things are repeating themselves. We're going back to that time. And that's why I think it's very essential that some of the leaders from our community step up and realize that singing on the Manual 9 is not going to bring them back. You have to illustrate a picture to America that they are evil, that they don't care about African Americans. And I'm going to jump off the subject right quick. I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine. He's a professor at the College of Charleston. And I told him, I said, I think it's so ironic that people can come from Mexico, all these different countries, sneak here in America, and nothing's never said to them. They could be pedophiles, they could be murderers, they could be anything. You would never know. But then you tell them about possibly living here if they go about it the right way. But you'll never get a record. There'll never be a file that comes with them from where they came from. So they can be anything over there they was. But once they get here, they can just change it or hide it for a while until 7 to 8 university students from Penn State come up and say we was being molested for 16 years. You know, these are the kind of things that I like to bring to light instead of talking about 9 people that was killed to benefit myself, so that any time someone wants to do an interview here in Charleston, they call Poppa Smurf. I don't want that. I want to talk about issues like that. Did you check these people? Is there any way you can check these people? Why are they getting so much loans? Why don't we get these kind of loans? These are the kind of issues that I raise. I don't want to spend time beating that horse of the Manual 9. It hurts me every time I think about it because it repeated itself.
You know, we know you as a community activist. You work very hard.
Yes, sir.
In the city. Obviously, you're a father.
Yes, sir.
But when you take off your community activist hat, who is Christopher Poppa Smurf Cason?
You know, I never had a problem telling that story.
Okay.
I'm an ex-felon. I was involved in the drug trade for many years. I was the destruction of my community. It hurt me when I realized that the person who really had the most impact on my life didn't care about my life. Michael Jackson had a song that said, "The Man in the Mirror." And when I got in prison and realized that I was good at selling drugs, but there was too many other variables that went against me, that I needed to change. But it's everyone in prison says that. Oh, I'm going to be good when I get home. I'm going to be good when I get home. When I came home with a reputation. A lot of people knew who I was. They knew what I was involved in. But when I was away, no one cared who I was and what I was involved in. No one never sent me no money. No one never visited me. Well, excuse me, God bless the dead. Thomas Campbell, we call him Dutch. He visited me when I was in prison. But no one visited me. And I realized that who I was perceiving myself to be wasn't really me. It was a facade. I liked the women that went along with being a drug dealer. I liked eating good, dressing good. I liked all the materialistic things that had no substance. But I knew I needed money to survive. But when I came home, I was very blessed to get married in 2002 and have some wonderful children. Now, I had children prior to my wife. But those kids was by women who I met, and I was too much in the street to be the kind of father they deserved, and the kind of boyfriend at that time, because I wasn't married to them, they deserved. Okay. So I did a lot to them, and I put a lot of pressure on them because I thought it was manly, and it proved that I was a man by having children. Thinking that because I'm a dope dealer, I can always take care of them financially. But I never knew it was going to require me to be more active in their life. So when I came home this time and I got married, I said I wasn't going to have any more illegitimate children. I was going to get married, have some kids. I was able to do that. And one of the things that happened that really made me settle into who I was, along with me me studying in prison was my children's mother, the two that I had previously. They never hated me, you know, and I couldn't understand why didn't they hate me. You know, why didn't they turn their kids, our kids, against me? You know, one of my children's mother, Lucy Capers, actually brought my daughter to see me in prison. You know, and I'm trying to figure out, I thought you hated me. So when I got home and I realized that what I did was a facade, it wasn't really who I was, I started to build a relationship with my kids. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see my son as much, but I still was able to communicate through him periodically. And having my wife and my kids there, it made me realize that I am one of the most powerful entities here on earth. I am man. I am the creator of life. I am knowledge. I am the foundation of all things which exist. So having that understanding, I started to lie less. I wouldn't tell as much lies. I started to spend more time with my kids. I started to be concerned about other people's welfare, considering all the pollution I put into the community. And I started to like it. I just started to receive joy. I started a little thing. Well, not me by myself, some other guys. I initiated it, and they supported me. They're well-off guys, DJ Shadai, Bird, DJ Juice, and a few other people, Party Animal. These guys had good jobs, never was in trouble with the law. And when I came out and told them I wanted to do something better with my life, they supported me. So all these things is happening, and it's making me feel good. Then I got the biggest encounter that was necessary for me to really say I stepped up my game. I was taught so long to hate white people. I read a lot of the teachings of Elijah Muhammad. I read a lot of teachings from Malcolm X, Farrakhan, many others. It didn't necessarily teach me to hate white people, but I knew there was privilege, and that privilege favored one group of people. But I realized that not everybody that had that skin tone was as evil as I thought they was. So I had to take myself, with all the good that was going, and challenge that getting along with people who think like me, talk like me, dress like me, listen to music is easy. I need to culture myself to get along with people who don't look like me, don't dress like me, don't talk like me. I met a wonderful Caucasian individual named Professor Hopkins, George Hopkins. And when he first met me, he was kind of rude. He wanted to sit down next to me. He said, "Can I sit down next to you?" I told him no. I said, "No, you can't sit next to me." He pulled a chair and he sat anyway. So now I'm real upset at him. And then he reaches over to shake my hand. I'm looking at you, man, I'm not going to shake your hand. But he was so persistent, because we was at the ILA hall. He talked to me and he told me some things I never thought about. How can you just like me, sir, and you don't even know me? Wow. And I'm like, wait up, I thought that's what y'all do. I thought y'all dislike me simply because of my skin tone, and you don't even know me. And we started to communicate, and that was the hurdle that made me say, I'm going to take my name back. You know, I don't want Poppa Smurf to be the head. I don't want to be remembered for Poppa Smurf and what I did negatively in the community. I'm going to fix me. And if I possibly can get that done, it's a lot of other people I can help that really want to get out of that situation but don't have no avenue to travel to get out. So if I can fix me with all these problems, my kids, disrespecting their mothers, gainful employment, education, and then, as I said, the biggest hurdle, my association with Caucasian people and the myth that I believe that all of them was out to get me, I could do better. I accomplished all that. And it just made me feel good. I felt so good about myself that even without a job, I went without a job for a while, and people wasn't hiring me purposely because they wanted to prove that if you take all these things away from a criminal, he'll resort back to what he knows best. I never did. I got out in 2000, this is 2016, I have had no run-ins with the law since. As I told you before, I just received an award from the House of Representatives, along with numerous awards. If you go to my truck right now, look on the dashboard, I got awards all on my dashboard because I'm not into awards, but it's good that the community recognizes me. So I'm happy at who I am. I just sometimes think back and say to myself, why didn't I do this a long time ago? And you know, everyone says that. Man, if I could just turn their hands and clap like this in TV,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm thankful, man. I'm thankful. I have a text that I just received from a young lady about Camp Hope.
Right.
That really is the reason why my dreads was cut.
Okay.
And she said she's real adamant about me. You'll be able to look it up. It's on my page.
Okay.
She's real adamant about getting me back. She's even campaigned to get me back. I decided not to go back because there were some issues with the way the camp was going, and I felt it could have been better if we involved the parents more. You know, it's no good sending your kids to me to babysit, then I got to send them back into a negative environment. I want the parents to be able to come, and the people who's in charge, Chief Mullins, he tried his best to get it done, but I think it could have, a little more effort could have been put into it, and unfortunately it didn't work. So I can't promise kids, as I did, which the young lady spoke about on the thing, that when she runs into a problem, I'll be there to help her, and I don't have the resources to help her. You know, I don't have access to the resources to help her, and I don't want to lie to these kids no more. So the only way I can really be effective now is by stepping away from that and work at it on my own. So I am happy to be me. The Poppa Smurf stayed with the Christopher Cason because I want people to see this is what he used to be, and look at what he's at, where he's at now. There was a song a few years back that said, I started from the bottom, and now I'm here. I'm just thankful, man. You know, I never died and went to heaven to know that there is one. But I'm gonna do everything and make every preparation that if I die today or tomorrow, I'd rather be prepared for heaven and get there and find out there ain't one than not be prepared for heaven and get there and find out there really is one.
Wow.
So, Poppa Smurf, Christopher Cason, I'm trying my best. You know, I'm doing my best.
That is awesome. Well, Christopher, Poppa Smurf, Cason, thank you so much for this time.
Yes.
I really appreciate this.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay.